Innovation. The driving force that brought us the telephone,
Riverdale Exchange.
automobile, personal computers,
All to help put your business on solid ground.
soda, watches, headphones, credit cards, toothbrush, planes, cameras, and drones. But does innovation always go as planned? Or does it have unintended consequences that the innovator never could have foreseen? Let's take a look at Frankenstein for a minute. Now, for those of you who don't know, let's give you a quick overview.
Victor Frankenstein was a young lad living in Switzerland. He grew up reading about alchemy, even though his father told him not to, and then went on to college to learn natural philosophy. Later, he ended up creating life in the form of a monster. The monster ran away, and Victor became very ill. They then traveled back to Switzerland to find out that his younger brother, William, was killed, probably by Victor's monster. He then goes to the mountains, where he beats the monster again and they talk. The monster's become much more knowledgeable since he was created, because he learned to read and talk. He demands that Victor make him a companion because he is lonely. The monster will kill everyone Victor loves. With this threat, Victor does agree. However, he ends up backing out of it later in the book, and this results in the monster killing Victor's wife on the wedding night. This sends Victor into a delusional state, and he ends up hunting down the monster until he dies.
Phew! That was a lot. But now that we're all caught up, let's go deeper. In Frankenstein, Victor was attempting to innovate a new way to create life from scratch. But because he disregarded all the potential consequences, there were disastrous repercussions for him, the monster, and everyone else involved. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a piece of literature. No one's creating life in the real world, and these consequences, they can't exist. But while you're right, no one's trying to create life, these consequences are real. And as an example, we're going to travel back in time a little bit. Some Nazi pilot research. During World War II, a number of Nazi physicians would force concentration camp inhabitants into participating in gruesome experiments. The victims often suffered from bruised toes, swollen ankles, maybe a cavity or two, and death. But why? Why was all of this awful experimentation happening? Well, to put it simply, to save pilots. They were looking for the best way to save German pilots who were forced to eject in high altitudes. They would do these awful things like place inmates in low pressure chambers while monitoring their physiological response to simulate being in these unlivable conditions. Additionally, they would dissect victims' brains while they were still alive to showcase that high altitude sickness results from the formation of tiny air bubbles in the brain's blood vessels. Blech. Obviously, this was disgusting and wrong on so many levels. But let's look past that for a second and take a look at the results. Well, they were pretty good. From the experiments, we have a much better understanding of the importance of keeping our pilots safe and in their cockpits as much as possible. Because of this, there were better designed cockpits starting early with the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and only improving as the war continued. In fact, we really haven't changed cockpits all that much since this time period. So, what should we think of this? Should innovation be celebrated because of the results, or should it be frowned upon because of how we got there? That's something I can't really decide for you. But I would like to provide you with one more example. Iceland, known for the beautiful scenery, the fjords, the volcanoes, the hot springs, as well as the small and quiet and contained population. It's a perfect place for a lovely vacation, as well as completely off the grid, as if you're hiding from, CIA or anything. Not that I'm hiding. Let's move on. Now, underneath the quiet and quaint scenery and depiction, something innovative has been happening in Iceland. Over the past few years, Icelandic hospitals have been implementing a new form of prenatal screening, the kind of test performed on unborn babies to determine what kind of complications they can have throughout life. It sounds all fine and dandy, except that the Icelandic government has mandated that if a woman chooses to use one of these tests, the doctors who administer it are required to tell her the results. Pretty interesting, right? Well, the importance might not seem that relevant, but what happened in Iceland after these laws passed was rather interesting and quite unexpected. What they found was that every single woman who took the prenatal test and received signs of Down syndrome decided to abort their baby, thus effectively eliminating this disease in Iceland. With the large-scale abortions taking place throughout the nation, many have questioned the morality of the new laws and screening technique, as it raises many questions regarding whether or not a baby should be aborted if it is discovered to have a life-crippling disease. While opinions differ from person to person, the point remains the same. A simple act of innovating new tests and new laws brought about new questions and concerns that neither Iceland nor anyone else could have anticipated. Just like in Frankenstein, we can see how positive intentions can have negative consequences and can learn the necessity of evaluating the cost of innovation. It is important as an innovating society that we take time to consider the ramifications of pushing the boundaries of science and technology, because the act of doing makes us more conscientious society and propels our future innovation. This has been Wyatt. Until next time.